Friends, do you know how many CSI dioceses? Our people are thinking that 24 dioceses following CSI style of worship. Now, my question is, how Sri Lanka is coming under Indian Companies Act? Is it possible? Is it true? Is it an Indian company? Whether the Sri Lanka or Jafna peoples can vote the CSITA company's election? Because last January, their people they have entered and they are stating that they have elected the directors of the CSITA company. How it is? Do you want to know the details, the historical evidences? Please go hear the video up to the end and subscribe it the channel, because the charity CSITA and this channel is giving awareness evidences of the CSI and CSITA. And today we are going to explain, or we are going to learn something about the Jafna Diocese. Why Jafna Diocese is in CSI? Okay. In the year 1908, SIUC was formed. South Indian United Churches were formed, and this SIUC tried to unionizing all the worship styles which were existing in all over South India. After 20 round talk, they came to know that they have planned to start a new company immediately after the independence. In the year 1947, September 26, the SIUC formed a company. That company is called Church of South India Trust Association, that we know very well. So, this company, now my question is whether CSITA company can rule over the Sri Lankan Jafna Diocese people, or is it legal, or Jafna Diocese, how they have entered in India and saying that we are CSI. So, for that you want to know this detail, see up to the end. Please note that immediately after independence, that is during the year 1900, Indian churches were controlled by the England people. These Europeans trying to join the churches and its different worship style into a single style, South Indian the style of worship. So, during that time, during the year 1900, Indian churches means the churches from Kabul to Singapore was called as Indian churches. These Indian churches they clubbed together, and the style of worship they plan to follow the CSI style of worship. That is why the common worship style, CSI style of worship, has been started in the year 1947, September 27, next day of the new company framed out. Okay. So, now my question is, when Jafna is eligible to be the CSI, as you know, these Indian churches coming from Kabul to Singapore, and now the SIUC tried to unionize the churches all over the places, but unfortunately it couldn't do. So, it has started a new company. That company is called CSITA, that you know very well. So, this during the time of this starting of this company, Sri Lanka was with Indian churches, Burma was with the Indian churches. That is why the CSI proceedings books having a name Churches from India, South India and Sri Lanka, Burma. The name itself is called CSI, means CSI includes the churches of Sri Lanka, the churches of Burma and churches of South India. So now my question is whether they can come to India to elect the CSITA companies directors. No, they cannot do, because the India got independence in the year 1947. That time Sri Lankan churches, Burman churches were called as Indian churches, and these churches during the time of India's independence in the year 1947, these churches were with Indian churches. So, India got independence in the year 1948. But next year, maybe 1948, the Sri Lanka and Burma got independence. So, when they got independent, they were completely separated from India. So, that churches, they are following the regulation of their own country's regulation. So, now they are not the member, they cannot be the member of the CSITA company. But at the same time, when the churches were formed in these countries, that time that countries were joined with South Indian countries, so they followed the South Indian order of worship. So I think now you are clear. So they can have worship, but they cannot have the CSITA company. They cannot have the worship at here, because after separation of the individual country, maybe separation during the year 1948, thereafter they have their own regulation, but they cannot come to the Indian churches and ask the legal evidences. So, my dear friends, hereafter don't think that Sri Lanka and Burma is not the CSITA company's unit. They are separated from CSITA, but since they were with India, Indian churches, that time it was called as CSI churches. Now CSITA company is rulings were in CSI churches of India, South India. So they cannot come to this the CSI churches. Here some days back, so in South Madhya Kerala, people went to South America to frame the CSI churches. So in my opinion is, they can have the CSI style of prayer, but they cannot control over the CSITA company. So I think you are clear now. CSI Jafna Diocese is following CSI order of service, but they are not our members of CSITA company. Thank you.